great news, I got in. I got my master's in strategic leadership, and I was an HR director at the time, and I went through the program, fell in love. They took me and I've never left, so I'm still here today. I taught as an adjunct for a couple of years, and last year I came on as full-time faculty, and I'm absolutely loving it, so it's wonderful.
Yeah, I could not ask to be blessed every single day to work with these two, and I truly enjoy it. I'm Marcy Van Noten, and I'm the director of the business and leadership programs here at Mount Mercy. You know, I started when I was 2 in human resources and worked in that field for about 30 years. And this is my 7th year, I guess, or 8th year full-time at Mount Mercy. So time flies when you're having fun, I guess. So you can see our email addresses up there. We'll flash them up at the end of the presentation as well. If you have any questions along the way or want to send an email to one of us, feel free to do that. We will respond. So, okay.
Okay, let me get in just a little bit of information on the MBA, Masters of Business Administration program. You can see some of the important numbers that we have. 9 start times per year, 40 credit hours, 12 to 18 months to complete. We're pretty proud of the program in terms of many things, but we really designed it around, or have designed it around, or have evolved anyway, to the point where our focus is really on flexibility and student customer service, and we're designed for the working professionals. So we have those multiple start times, and we try to keep it to courses and delivery methods that work well for the working professional. You can go ahead to the next one. This is a quote from one of our students, Larry Covington. Larry, I had in class a couple of years ago. Very busy person, work-wise. He works at Collins, travels a lot, has a lot going on with young kids, and his point is really about the flexibility and the abilities that the program has to be able to cater itself to people that are busy working as well as family people. Our student-based approach is our focus, obviously. High-quality instructors, and we only have 3 full-time people in our 2 programs, and everything else is taught by adjunct instructors that are subject matter experts in their field. So, we flex with students, changing life situations, and our focus is balancing that program rigor and that individual student focus. So, again, we're very proud of our MBA program, but there's more. Sherry will tell you a little bit about the MSL program.
Yes, thank you, Todd. So the Masters of Strategic Leadership program, I always get the question, what is the Masters of Strategic Leadership? And what it is, it's designed for experienced and emerging leaders with a growth mindset who would like to add that higher level competency to the skills most desired in organizations today. And we actually know they are desired because we've done focus groups with community leaders and said, what do you want to see? What skills do you want to see from your folks? And what came out of those focus groups was our great curriculum. And so you'll see we have classes like decision-making for leaders, collaborative and virtual teams, strategic HR management, leadership foundations, and many more. On the picture here, you'll see what an actual classroom looks like with our instructors. So you'll notice that I'm not in the front of the class lecturing. It's all about experiential learning for us. And so we're up and learning from each other all the time. And if you could please mute yourself, thank you. So for the Masters of Strategic Leadership program, what we really focus on is relationships, leadership, and strategic thinking. And so instead of going fully online with our program, what we did last year before everyone went virtual is we actually created the program to be virtual. That way we can get together once a week and collaborate and discuss all the things that we learned the week before and talk about how does this apply at work? How does this apply in the real world? So we have both the face-to-face for the MSL and we have what we call a virtual seminar, which is where we get on virtually once a week. Our emphasis areas are criminal justice, healthcare administration, human resources, international business, finance, and quality management. So we have many emphasis areas. And I just wouldn't be me if I didn't talk about the Business and Leadership Book Club. I'm so excited to announce today that I have over 140 members in my book club. And so we are getting ready to launch a new book. We just wrapped up our last book this month. And if you are interested in joining the Business and Leadership Book Club, we meet the third Tuesday of every month. And in November, we will meet and vote on our next book. So the voting meeting is always one of the fun ones because we all bring book ideas, and then we go through and decide what's the best book. And we will be launching that new book in January. So let me know in the chat if you would like to join our book club.
Great, Sherry. Thank you. A lot of questions that I get almost every day is, what's the difference between the MBA and the MSL program? And which one should I do? So, you know, those questions are great questions. And the which one should I do depends on you and where you are in your career and where you hope to go with your career. So I always think about the MBA as being a very business acumen focus. So you're going to learn about every aspect of a budget, from accounting and finance to human resources and our speaker's favorite, organizational effectiveness, and how organizations work effectively. And the MSL, as Sherry mentioned, is really designed for those emerging leaders and those wishing to hone their leadership skills. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know that I ever had any formal leadership training. Maybe that's why I'm not so great at it, but this gives you some formal leadership training that you can take back to your workplace. And when the question comes, which one should I do? My comment is always, do both. So if I come into the MBA program, get that business acumen, I've probably only got 6 more classes I need to take in order to get my Master's of Strategic Leadership. So when you're done, you not only go out there to the real world with that business acumen, but you go out with leadership skills and discovering how and what you are as a leader. So which one to do? Do both. Sherry? All right. Doing both is going to make you more promotable, although we can't make any promises by that, but we certainly feel that way. One of the things that we do in our graduate business and leadership programs is we offer certificates. And I am just so thrilled about our certificate areas. You know, right now is a really good time to think about you and where you want to go in the future. You know, we hear a lot of conversations out in the work world about people and the need to upskill, to get additional skills to move up or to move into a different position, or just to feel as if I've accomplished something. And our certificate programs cover all of our emphasis areas, as you can see: collaboration and leadership and navigation in the MSL program. So those certificate programs are 4 classes, and you can just take the classes that are involved in that certificate and get your certificate. Or you can continue on and get your MBA and your MSL, and you're already done with 4 classes. The thing that I am just so incredibly excited about is that in February, we will be launching a new certificate called Remote and Virtual Workforce. And so there'll be 4 classes with that on everything from remote leadership to collaborative and virtual teams, working together remotely. A lot of great topics going to be covered, and I get really excited about that. And if you're interested in that one, it is ready to go. So send me an email and we'll get you signed up for that certificate program. Okay. With that, as we kind of switch our slides here, I want to take an opportunity to introduce our speaker for today. And I feel as if I hit the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, you know. So we've been doing these showcases for a while, but we've been able to invite Celina Peerman to present today's session. She is one of our adjunct faculty, been around, I think, for a while, Celina, right? 2008, 9? Yeah. Yeah, I think you and I probably started adjuncting about the same time. So
Same time.
yeah.
Both when we were 2.
Yeah, exactly. 2 years old. Yep. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Celina Peerman, and thank you very much, Celina.
Thank you for the great opening. And so anybody on the call today as a former student, right? So you may have a little bit of deja vu, but for those of you who are alum and graduates of this program, I want you to think about congratulations on logging back in today to pushing yourself, right? But what are you doing to continue to learn? Because there is that piece of that continuous piece. If you're here checking this out, welcome. It has been my pleasure to serve as an instructor now for a number of years. And as somebody who understands that process of, do I go back? Do I not go back? Do I go back? Do I not go back? You've got a great team available to you. And I'm one more resource for you. If you're not sure what this is going to be like, how do I do this? There's never enough time in life. So don't wait for that time. But the timing is important. And it's not always that right time, but it may push you to that next level and maybe out of your comfort zone a little bit. I came back to my master's degree and did my master's in business with an HR emphasis, and had a growing family, a growing career, went back. My pathway was a little bit differently. For a long story I won't tell you today, I ended up back for a PhD, which is really just more graduate classes, by the way, but I had 8 years more of graduate classes. So my pathway was a little longer. So one of the jokes that comes up in my classes is I'll say something like, hey, so grad school tip number 435 or whatever number I'm on, right? Part of this is all of this community helping each other to learn more and to support each other in the process. So not only that team is available to you, but representing on the instructor side today, you're gonna meet different instructors. You're gonna find people you connect with and other people you pull information from and you soak it up. And maybe the style was a little bit different than what you were used to, but the entire experience is to get you to that next level of learning. Because if I tie that into our conversation for this period of time, this is about continuous improvement, and our organizations need you to be growth mindset, to be constantly navigating this unyielding, relentless change. And so I have the opportunity to teach the class. You saw one of them, or you saw it on the slide there just a minute ago. One of the classes is organizational effectiveness. So I'm going to share with you a little bit of that content today in a little bit different way, just webinar format. And while I'm bringing up a few visuals to do that with, here's your first exercise. You have a little homework. I want you to think for just a moment through some song titles or lyrics. You can look on your phone through your playlist. You could quickly Google if you're at a computer or easily access to an internet window. A song or a lyric that describes your mood today or your team's mood. So think about a song that describes your mood or your team's mood. So I'll give you some examples. Sometimes I hear titles like Working 9 to 5 by Dolly Parton. Sometimes I hear titles like Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne. But think for just a moment, what would be a song or a lyric that describes your mood or your team's mood? Anyone want to take that on? Some music enthusiasts amongst us. What would be a song or a lyric that describes your mood or your team's mood? You can give a shout out or type it in the chat.
Celina, I want to be a millionaire.
I love it. Yes. All right. Another one. Hey, Sherry, can you help me read some of the chat ones there for me?
Absolutely. It looks like we've got Staying Alive, good one. Let's Go Crazy, or Let's Go and then Crazy by Prince. Roll On Down the Highway. I'm Still Standing by Elton John.
Oh, yes.
Spin Me Right Round, Baby.
Right? So what I love about those, and as you know, if you put some more in, that's fine too. We're going to do a couple things with that as we go through this, is there's something about a song that has a pull, right? It just gives us a quick way to share how are we feeling, what's going on with us, and we can use a sense of humor as well. But that's really a lead-in that I want you to think about for this time period on a topic I want to share with you regarding organizational effectiveness. So organizational effectiveness and the way we look at it in the curriculum is really a buffet topic. And it's all those things that lead together as we put people together, all those personalities, characteristics, and traits into spaces and drive business performance. So while we need those tools of business acumen, we also know that it is the organization and the individual and where they interface that drives those results. So how do we think about effectiveness? For you today, you might be thinking about effectiveness that's having good strategy or to be able to pivot your strategy in changing times. That might be having clear goals or having a good operational plan. Effectiveness might mean for you meeting those goals or being able to execute that operational plan. It might be bigger than that. It might be living your values and fulfilling your mission and ensuring that you're producing, serving, or reaching the people you have made a commitment to. And usually under this organizational effectiveness topic, we're looking at the way the individual and the organization intersect and how we then get to performance based on a number of things, including leadership and communication and conflict and building good teams and emotional health and well-being, adjustment to change, dealing with stress, right? There's so many different topics that fuel behavior in order to drive that performance. So whatever that is to you today, we want to think about how organizations not only survive, but thrive in the years to come. And certainly 2020, while this will be a fairly COVID-free webinar today, right? 2020 has taught us some things about that. We were talking about relentless change before COVID. And then we are now doing things we hadn't even dreamed were possible a year ago. So maybe for you, it's a reflection today that your company, your team, whether you have 5 people or 50 people, 500 people or 5,000 people, what is that combination of activities and endeavors that will help make your organization more effective? Well, if we tie that to our topic for today, right? Organizational leaders have to be able to bring people along, not only to be effective, which certainly means meeting our operating costs, right? And hopefully making a margin so that we can continue to sustain for the long term, but how we do that through and with our people. So I want you to consider a couple of reflection questions for today. In times of change, what does effectiveness mean for you? Maybe effectiveness last year meant something very different than it does this year, right? As a small business owner, right? I define effectiveness way differently this fall than I did even in February this year. Of what does that mean for us to be successful or effective, or what did we take for granted in the past that we can't do anymore? Think about what you can learn about your own response to change. So as we think about navigating these ups and these downs, and the volatility is going to continue, and even the uncertainty is still there, we see it with some new lenses, if you will. And the most effective leader today understands that there's not one best way to do this, that the most effective leader understands that when they go into a situation, they need to ask great questions and then be able to adjust their style, learn and grow in order to take great care of their teams. We also know that there are some things that are motivating us right now, and there are some things that are demotivating us, right? There's some things we can get pretty excited about during times of change, and there's some things like we're just over this, or done, or you got nothing left in the tank, or we just really miss travel, right? Maybe some of you are in that boat with me of, I just miss some stuff. So we're going to tie it to a tool today. I'm going to introduce you just to a couple of quick things, and you'll find these in a lot of the classes at Mount Mercy, is that we want to take the research, we want to take the models, we want to take some of the best things out there. And then graduate school is a little different. When you pursue your master's degree, then you're learning on how to apply those. How does this work in your organization? What experience have you had to adjust and be able to learn better? So we're going to tie that very briefly to one of the key ideas, that when we navigate the ups and the downs of change, that we have to understand our own response to change in some of those tools. So let's take a look at a few of those. If we think about navigating change, let's first define change. In organizational effectiveness and tied to change, change is an altered state. It's something that is different than it was before. What I want us to think about is that change is that altered state. Change management is a process. And so when we think about change, change is the event. In our organizations, we roll out a new policy on Monday. That's the event. It's the process afterwards that's really hard, right? We can roll out a lot of new stuff, but getting it to stick, getting people to change behaviors, keeping that momentum going is what challenges us. So let's look at what that means. There's a well-known ADKAR model out there, and if you've seen it before, I want you to consider what this means today when we're going through change so rapidly in some very new and unusual ways than we've experienced in the past. The ADKAR model is one that there's no perfect model out there, but what they do is they help us kind of frame, what does this look like? How could we adapt this to the circumstances we're experiencing? So this particular model is one of my favorites. It starts with awareness. I need to know that a change is needed. So a lot of times in our organizations, if somebody is doing something and you're like, I wish they wouldn't do that, my first question is, are they aware? Do they know it? Because first I got to know it, then I have to want to. If I'm not aware that I need to make a change, then I'm not going to make the change unless I know it. Because I have to have that desire. So if I know it, I have to wanna. I'm motivated to make the change I need. So healthcare professionals have known this for years, right? They can give advice to all of us all day long about keeping ourselves or making ourselves more healthy. You can know it, but to do something different than you've done before, you have to wanna. You have to have that desire. Well, if you take this back to the organizational setting, right, when it comes to effectiveness, for us to do our mission, our purpose, our goals, our strategy, execute our business well, we have to be able to navigate change. But first we have to know it, then we have to want to. Then we need the knowledge to make the change. So I need the training, I need the insight, I need the experience, whatever that knowledge base is. I have to have the information I need to make the change, but then I have to be able to implement it. So let's take the model and make it real before I go on to that step number 5. Chances are all of you sometime this past year or two have had to train on some sort of new computer system, an update, a software change, maybe a brand new conversion. And what happens in our organizations is we announce it, effective November 1, right? We're gonna roll out this new system. You get the announcements, you go, oh, here we go again, right? And I know it, and I may not want to, but I know I have to. Well, then comes along the knowledge. So if we're gonna roll it out November 1, we do our project plan and we map it back and we're like, you know what? For us to roll it out November 1 and to give people time to practice in their sandboxes, for us to get everybody through training, we're gonna train in July. So we put everybody through training in July and you leave the training and you're like, all right, well, at least I know what's coming at us. And you go through the training, and even though well-meaning project managers and IT professionals and vendors really plan on rolling it out November 1, it gets postponed 6 months. Anyone had that happen? Right? And so it gets postponed. So I am aware, I have the desire, I now have the knowledge, but I can't implement it. So what happens? Gets postponed till April 1st. Now we roll it out And we're like, well, you've been trained. And you're like, well, yeah, but that was like 6 months ago. I don't remember it. So I didn't have the ability to implement it. I couldn't make use of the information, which now makes it harder for me to change. Because what we know with change is it takes reinforcement, continuing to perform over time. So think about how that compares to what you know in your organization, right? Think about what that means when you roll out something and people are like, what? That applied to me? Yeah, it applies. You got to be aware. You got to have the desire. You got to have the knowledge, but you got to also have the ability to implement. And while we may have really good intentions about implementing that project on November 1, stuff happens and we've got to adjust. So if we're going to roll it back out in April, we might need to do some refreshers. We might need to put some new visual aids out because we've got to queue up people's memories to remember the training from last July, because it's that reinforcement. We know from the research that 80% of change management initiatives fail at the reinforcement stage because it lasts for a while and then we all go back to the way we really wanted to do it, unless the computer software is gone, right? If the behavior that we're trying to get changed or the new practices that we're trying to pursue, if no one makes me and I don't wanna, then I'm gonna go back to doing it the way I wanted to in the first place, unless it's reinforced over time. So ADKAR model is one of those out there that when we look at these as part of the master's program, it gives us a framework to go, how's this apply to you? And I don't know, I've seen it this way. But yet, what can we pull from that model to understand that, especially as we're leading other people through change, how critical it is that they first understand it's happening, awareness, that we create that desire, we model it, even if they've got hesitations. We give them the knowledge and the ability by support, and that we journey with them. We don't go, hey, good luck with that, and we walk it with them. A good leader sticks with them all the way through to be able to get it to whatever that measurable result was. Let's add one more to that, on navigating change. It happens to be one of my favorites. It's a modified version of what you might know as the Kubler and Ross model of the stages of grief. And while we have all had some sort of grief in our personal life, and there are big issues that can happen at the workplace, that's not what we're talking about today. That's a separate conversation. I want to talk about the fact that you can go through the stages of grief 3 times in 20 minutes when you open up your email in the morning. Okay, think about what that sounds like. Change. You come into work, you log in from home, you log in, you open the first email, and it goes something like this. What? Who thought up this idea? Shock, denial. Then you get to some sort of emotion. No, I don't want to do this. And you've got some frustration. And the bargaining stage is something more like, fine, if they expect me to do this, then I'm not staying 1 minute past 5 o'clock. So often we get started with our day where we're ups and downs and lots of change. You don't know what's going to adjust from one day to the next, but you can literally watch your team go through this. Shock and denial, 1. Emotions, some sort of stuff going on with that. And as you look on that downward slope, think about it this way. You can probably all pick out people on your team that got angry about something like 15 years ago and stayed angry. They've never moved on. So I can open up email number 1 and go, what? Huh? Fine. What do we need to do? And I've made that upward turn, progress, and acceptance. I shut that email. I go to email number 2. What? Who? Where did this one come from? Right? Think about what we've been experiencing, those ups and those downs. This is changing. That is changing. So what I want us to think about today is just being able to name it. I'm frustrated. I'm happy. I'm excited. That's where we start weaving in some of the emotional intelligence tools to say, all right, I need to understand that right now I'm stuck. Maybe I'm angry and I'm stuck at emotion. Or maybe I'm bargaining a little bit. I haven't bought in yet, but now what I love about upward turn is when we make that move to the other side of the U, upward turn sounds like this. Starts usually with a sigh. Fine. What do we need to do? I'm not holding us back, but I've not completely bought in. We want to be able as leaders to understand that if we have spent weeks or months working on a new initiative, a rollout, we have probably had months or weeks to process. We might be well past acceptance, and then we go to roll it out. And you know what happens? People just then start at the beginning. Now, sometimes you move through this really fast. If it's a change you're happy with and you can see the reasoning for. But what I want you to consider today is how we also help lead others through all of this change. If you've got 5 coworkers and a change has come through, you've got 5 people at different stages of this. And it layers upon layers upon layers, different changes, different acceptance levels. So if we take those 2 models about thinking about how does change happen? How does our individual response to change impact us? Then we can start discussions about how does it affect your team? How's it affecting your department? How's it affecting your company? And then what do we need to do based on the role we're in to make the best influence possible on the team, on those people that we interact with? So let's add just a couple of other pieces to that. Think about today. One of the phrases I love to use as leaders, as emerging leaders, as we're navigating those ups and downs of change, I need to meet people where they're at, not where I expect them to be. If they're still stuck at shock and denial, my role is different as a leader than if they're at acceptance. And I love the fact that coming through 2020, one of the key words that's popping up right now for leader development is empathy, the ability to see it from somebody else's perspective and walk with them through this. So really thinking about how all of us meet people where they're at, not where I expect them to be. So when we think about navigating change, I love being able to point out that no matter what has happened in your team, in your organization, in your personal life, there's always some things that have not changed. Articulate what has not changed. Maybe you're to your team right now, they need a little stability, and you want to be able to say, folks, our commitment to customers has not shifted. Our dedication to patients, still there, right? So even amongst lots of change, we want to make sure that we are articulating what has not changed. Our dedication to our values, our commitment to safety, whatever that is for you. We do know that with the emotion of change, we have to give people information multiple ways, multiple times. Because I'm going to process an announcement very differently at shock and denial than I'm going to process information at bargaining, than I'm going to process information at acceptance. And people are going to need to hear things. The bigger the change, the more significant the impact, they need to hear it multiple ways, multiple times. I also think it's important for us to mark endings of old ways and practices with honor and to treat that past with respect. So if I'm a new leader coming in and I'm dinging on what used to happen in this department, I'm now alienating some of those other people who've been around longer, right? So I need to treat the past with that respect. I may not have been there, I may not have understood it, but I'm never gonna insult it. I also believe it's important that we acknowledge losses with empathy and let people take a piece of the old way with them so that we honor that past. Maybe something is different pre-2020 or a merger or a leadership change or department restructuring, because we need to give people time and provide support to help them see the new. So when we consider ways to navigate, right, we can be aware of it. We can know that there's actions we need to take. And yet we have to wanna. Now I always have to apologize to my poet grandmother who's 92, and I'm sure she cringes in California every time I use that phrase. But you have to wanna, right? You have to wanna work at this. When we step into those leadership roles, this is not a journey for the faint of heart. This is tough stuff. but you accept it because you're looking for that challenge. You accept it because you want to make that difference. You accept it because you want to see what kind of grit you got. And so it really ties into navigating change through motivation, through wanting to do this, that spark, that drive for you to lead your team or to be a good coworker, to be great with your customers, patients, students. It's that push, it's that drive to satisfy something you need or you think you need. So as we navigate the ups and the downs of change, we've got to key in on what keeps us motivated. If you're starting to feel a little weary right now, if your motivation's a little flatter, reconnecting to the purpose, to that something that keeps you going, to really asking yourself, what do I need to do for me or for my team, depending on your perspective, to help navigate this a little bit better? Maybe we need a celebration because we just haven't been good at celebrating milestones lately because we've been nose to the grindstone and we have been looking at ways to just survive. Maybe we got to pull back a little bit and look at that big picture. So I'm going to ask a follow-up question. Name a song or a lyric that improves your motivation immediately when you hear it. So I want you to think about your favorite song that as soon as you put it on, you're like, it's go time. Think about what that is for a moment. Give a shout out or type it in the chat. Maybe Sherry, you can help me with those chat notes again. So I have a couple of favorites. I know Gloria Gaynor, I Will Survive would be one of my favorites, right? I can put that thing on and it's go time, right? What songs inspire and motivate you?
Celina, I've got dance to the music.
There we go. Nice. What else?
Born This Way by Lady Gaga. Love Yourself by Eminem. And Stuck in the Middle with You.
Right? I love that one because it's a mindset thing, right? Hey, here I am, right? Let's own where we're at and then figure out how to keep going. I love it.
Walking on Sunshine.
Yeah. I love that connection to music, right? It ties us back to the ups and the downs of change are going to be here. And that's what I love about our organizations as we think about making them better, growing them, not necessarily by size, but by value, by contribution in our communities, right? When we tie what makes a good organization and we think about how do we strengthen that organization, the changes are going to hit. If they don't, we're done. If we don't change, we're no longer serving who we serve. So we really have to help prepare our teams to talk about change as ongoing and regular. New people coming in the door and people who've been around a long time. One of the things that I find in my own work as a workplace psychologist, training, consulting, working with companies every day. And, you know, Todd's comment earlier, and I know the whole team would share this, is when you get instructors who are living in their area of expertise all day long, class sometimes becomes a real life case study because we're all seeing stuff happen in the world every single day. And then we bring it into the classroom online or in the physical classroom. And just those challenges that are happening within our organizations, to be able to talk through some of that, to be able to wrestle with some of those topics of what is helping us navigate this better? What are you doing? What are we doing? What's the research say? And then finding a place to put that together. So let's add that to the tool. So as we think about this time together and why you logged on today, whether it was because you're like, hey, I just need a little bit of boost, right? I want to see the Mount Mercy team. I've got a few past students on here. So anytime you want to hear my voice, I'll log on and talk with my hands anytime you want. But if you're checking this out and you're wondering, what could I do with some classes for certificate, or maybe I'll pursue my master's degree, what would it do for you? There are just a number of tools you're going to find throughout the program that if we can help support your learning in these areas, you're already going to be effective in your team the next morning when you walk back out of class or you log off. And our organizations are going to be better for it. You're going to be stronger for it, because when we're learning, we're also navigating change better. And one of my favorite tools as we go into our last section of time together here is all about emotional intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence has been around since the 1970s. This isn't a new topic, but it has been one of the biggest leadership development opportunities we've had in recent years to talk about some things that are either helping leaders move forward or holding them back. The last Gallup study has it at 58% of our work performance is tied to this, our ability to know how we're feeling and how it's affecting us. So that's self-awareness, self-management. I know how I'm feeling today. The question is how many other people know how I'm feeling today, right? Social awareness is being able to walk in a room and pick up on the nonverbals. Social awareness is being able to pick up on emotional cues in others without them having told you. So this is when you walk into your team, your department, or you log on to a meeting and you're like, wow, everybody seems to be in a really good mood today. Yay. Or you tune in and you're like, uh-oh, what happened? Because you can just tell from the nonverbals that the mood is low. And then the last one, relationship management, how we reach out and connect. So it might be saying, hey, Todd, it seems like it's been a pretty tough week for you. And Todd goes, oh, it has. Well, now I'm just checking in with him to go, is there anything I can help with? So these are the kinds of tools that we want to build in our leaders so that when they're building relationships, they know how they're impacting them. And then we also know then what builds stronger relationships, because if we're going to get to business performance for any organization to remain sustainable for the long term, they've got to have people in place who know their strengths, who know when to bring other people in with their strengths, that they can build relationships with customers, with coworkers, with vendors, with suppliers, and that they understand that the ups and the downs are going to come. But what can we do today to move this ahead? What can we do tomorrow to make this even better? So let me share with you some suggestions as we think about navigating change, and that you're motivated to want to, and you're influencing others, and we add the tool of EQ in. I have some recommendations for you. So I'm going to share those with you, and I'm going to ask you to think about any questions that you have as we come to the end of this that we can help field for you. So how do we navigate change in these uncertain times? If I'm going to tie it to self-awareness, I have to name it. So think about this. I'll be coaching with someone and they'll say, Celina, it made me frustrated. I'm like, good, own it. Made you frustrated. Now, what do you want to do with it? Frustration or anger or disappointment is not good or bad. It is what it is. And I don't think it's realistic in any organization today to not have some frustrations, to not have some disagreements. But naming it is important. It's important for our mental health. It's important for how we navigate change. Because feelings themselves, emotions are not good or bad, but spot them. So consider this. Here's the practical part. When you open up your email inbox and there's a name there and you're like, oh, right? Maybe somebody you've just struggled with. Maybe somebody you have had some challenges with. The challenge with email and text messages, by the way, is that we read them in the voice we perceive they were typed in. We open up that email because it just queued up an emotion. This person, right? Whoever that is for you. And that emotion hits in and you go reply all, meet me, send, right? So spotting your emotions a little faster would mean, okay, deep breath. This is someone I've struggled with. I need to open this email. I'm going to give it some full thought. I'm going to reply, but I want to make sure, does it just go to them or does it go to everybody? Am I angry when I'm replying, or do I need to walk away from this for a little while to come back and be my best professional self? Because we really need to know our hot buttons, and our hot buttons have shifted this year. They may not be the same you've experienced in past years. So really tuning in. By the way, this is an area I struggle with. It's why I've now been practicing yoga for almost 3 years, because not my favorite area. So any of these areas, right? We just have to be open and honest with of what can I get better at? Self-management, think about what this means. Breathing, sleeping, moving, fueling. If we're going to navigate the ups and downs of change, right? We know the importance of breath, taking a pause for 10, a pause for 100, because sometimes we need longer, right? But you can't navigate change well if you're not sleeping well. And guess what? If you're not sleeping well, you're not moving very much because you are too tired to work out. Or I am not parking farther away because I don't want to get those steps in right now. I'm tired. And guess what? We're not eating. We're not meal planning well. So we see a connection to navigating those ups and downs connected to sleep, movement, and fuel, how we take care of ourselves. We also know that we have some voices in our head. You know, the cartoon characters that have an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other shoulder, and they're telling us different things. Well, when you're trying to work through a tough change, what are you telling yourself? Are you of a growth mindset that you can move this forward? Or are you in that fixed mindset of, well, might as well not even try anyways? What are you telling yourself? So focusing on what you can do, not just what you can't do. Change is going to happen. We have to understand what can we do in this situation to manage it the best we can. It's helpful, and you heard it from the team earlier, right? To keep a good sense of humor amongst ourselves just because it helps. But to reach out, to know you're not in this alone, that there are other support people available to you to reach out and share. Last piece of this, right? So that's the self part, the social awareness. We've got just a few minutes left, but I want you to think about how you pay attention to nonverbals, how you check your timing. Is this the right time to reach out to this person or is it not? Being present, seeing it from their perspective, and sometimes taking a step back to see the big picture. We need to pay attention to what's going on around us. And right now that's harder. We've had to be much more intentional about it because when we are 6 feet apart and in masks, or we are connecting virtually, we're not picking up on the same cues. So right now, especially if we're leading virtual teams, we've got to check in differently. Last one to that, relationship management. Acknowledging somebody else's feelings is really important in navigating change successfully. We know this in our relationships outside of work. If someone says to you, you shouldn't be this upset, it probably just ticked you off more, right? So acknowledging the other person's feelings. If two of us are talking and I say, hey, I hear you. It seems like you're frustrated, or it seems like this is exciting for you. It just gives me a chance to confirm. And you can then say back, I am excited about this, or I'm worried. So when we can express that, right, we're a better individual, we're a better professional, we're a better team member, we're a better leader. Now, there are some days my team needs to see me show up with my game face on, where I'm not talking to them about maybe where I'm concerned, right? Because I don't want to vent out to my team. But there are days I need my game face, and there are other days where I may need to say to my team, I'm struggling with this too. I hear your concerns. We'll figure it out together. Because when you care, we need to show it. Especially in 2020, we shouldn't be avoiding tough conversations. It's one of the things I've seen with the companies I work with as this year has progressed. Well, I don't know, it's tough enough right now. Maybe we shouldn't have this difficult conversation. Oh, if you're feeling it and they're feeling with it, take it off the table. Don't let people stress about something that doesn't need to be there. Have the difficult conversation and get it taken care of. We also know as leaders, during times of change, we need to receive feedback well. If someone comes up to me and says, hey, Celina, can I share something with you? And they're honestly trying to give me some feedback. If I start going all ego on them, they are not going to be helpful next time. Now, we all have our moments where ego sneaks in and where we get defensive or maybe a little more resistant. But during times of change, it pushes us that much more to look at feedback in new ways, to figure out how we can learn from it. All of this comes back to a leader's responsibility to owning it and apologizing faster. I'm pretty convinced the world would be an entirely different place if we all just owned up and apologized sooner. So think about, during times of change, we're not going to do these things perfectly, and neither is anybody else. So we can remember that during times of change, there are some things that have changed. There's some things that haven't changed. People go through all sorts of processes with change. What can we do as a coworker? What can we do if it's my boss? What can we do as a leader of a team to help others navigate it well? Maybe just by helping ask some questions about, is there anything I can do to help you now? It seems like that was frustrating. What would you recommend as our next step? By seeking to understand and by asking questions, by managing those relationships, we now navigate that change better together. So one last activity before I wrap it up and I turn it back over to team. I just want you to give a shout out. It doesn't have to be anybody in this room today. It's better if it's not, actually. I want you to think of a person. We're going to put some good energy out there right now because we just need some good energy in this world right now. I want you to think about somebody you are just grateful for, somebody who you just appreciate their work, and you don't have to put their full name, just put their first name in the chat right now. Give a shout out to somebody who's maybe been helpful to you to navigate some recent change that you've been going through. And all you're doing is you're just sending them a little love virtually to say, you know what, this person, maybe it's Kate or Jim or Michaela, right? Somebody in your world that you're like, this person's helping me get through this. And just, you're sending them a little positive energy in this time. It's just a nice way to be able to do that, right? Because here's what we know, navigating change, when we can express appreciation, when we can tell somebody how important they've been for us, it just feels better. So we do have organizational effectiveness coming up starting in November and January. And I'm going to turn it back over to the team. I'm going to open it up for questions and just welcome any way that I can be of help as we wrap up this session. I love seeing all the love in the chat. There we go. Look at that. Family, right? Friends, people who just helped carry you through. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, putting out some good vibes in the world. I'll put my contact information in the chat too. You can contact me here at Mount Mercy. And if there's some way that I can help support and encourage you as well, I'm happy to do that. Thanks. I'll turn it back over.
Thanks, Celina. Wow. I usually don't take notes very well, but I've got like 6 pages here of notes. So thank you for sharing. This is a hard time for everybody. So I think just being able to pick up a few nuggets here and there to help us through this relentless time we're going through is incredible. So thank you very much. I just wanted to let you know of a couple different things coming up. How exciting. We're back next month on the 11th, and our very own Todd Hutchison is going to talk about continuous improvement. We do these business and leadership showcases every month as of right now. So please join us next month. And then Sherry's Business and Leadership Book Club. I'd love to see 140 people actually on the same call sometime. That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it, Sherry? So, and then in December, Lou Russell is going to be joining us for an author showcase. And Lou Russell was actually in Cedar Rapids a few years ago. Some of you might remember her, but she is a project management guru, a leadership guru, and she does a lot of work in the training arena. So her project management skills taken in that arena. And then I am super, super, super excited to talk about our 2-day virtual business and leadership showcase we're doing in February. So February 24th and 25th. We're going to be highlighting even more of our classes, and we've got some guest speakers and keynotes, and we're going to be doing a panel discussion. We've got all kinds of pretty crazy and exciting things happening, and the Business and Leadership Conference, virtual conference, is a free event. So stay tuned for 2 days of business and leadership information, from the MBA and MSL program here at Mount Mercy University. So save that date. There's more information coming. Does anybody have any questions for Celina? We've got a couple more minutes here if you want to jump in, and you've got the expert here, guys. So it's a good time to ask.
Instructor. Ask me a question to stump me. What do you got?
Yeah.
I was going to ask how you navigate helping managers and executives understand that they might be on a different part of that change curve that you kind of talked about than their employees. I do a lot with communications of change, and it's hard to get them to realize that we might be 2 steps behind for the employees where they think they should be.
It's a great question. And so a couple of things that come to mind, right, is that I've got to speak their language. So if I'm pitching up to senior leaders, I've got to think like my senior leaders. So if they want that change initiative to be successful, and maybe they're at a different spot than the team is at, right? It's encouraging them, it's asking questions, it's maybe mapping it out a little bit different, a slower, so that we make the case to them of why we want people to be brought along in this process. Can we bring them along a little sooner? There is that tendency, I hear leaders say it all the time, well, we don't want to tell them yet. No, I get that, but we need to plan this out so that they have time to adjust and it doesn't come as such a shock. So I always say when you're pitching up to senior leaders trying to do that, think like them. What's their language? What is their go-to? What are they trying to get out of this, and tie it to that? And I'm usually, when I'm pitching up, whether it's a board or a senior leader, I'm posing it in the form of a question or a business case that they'll understand. When we give people more time, they're going to come through it in a more sustained way. And sometimes we just don't have time, right? Stuff happens and it's go time. We didn't have time to adjust. And so then we've got to be coaching senior leaders to say, hey, we're adjusting. People are going to be at different stages of that adjustment. We'll walk it together, but let's pay attention to what do we think that awareness is? Are we reading them correctly? Are they on board? Are they not quite there yet? And really reading that mood and giving them that input, because again, they're further removed from a lot of those frontline conversations. So we've got to be feeding it to them, certainly in a positive, proactive way, but just helping them, even educating them on, say, kindly, right? Of saying, you know what, we've had 3 months to process this. I'm so pleased with this team and how we've worked through the planning of this project. How could we bring other people along so that they can adjust to those steps, just like we have the last 2 weeks or 3 months, whatever that is? Great question.
Yeah, I have a frustration that's probably bothered me all my life. Maybe that says something about me, but sometimes you work with people that think knowledge is power, and I'm going to hold that information as long as I can because I'm all powerful, and they don't share it, and it takes the folks around them a lot longer to move towards that change.
Yeah. And it is a shift in leadership that we've seen, but we're still in the process where transparency and sharing, what I call don't hog all the Legos, right? Sharing it is really critical to help bringing other people along. And it's great reminders for all of us.
It is, yeah. Anybody else have any questions? Well, once again, thank you all for joining. Thank you, Celina, from the bottom of our hearts. I am sure many of you have walked away with some good tidbits. And if you have any questions about the MBA or the Masters of Strategic Leadership program, Todd, Sherry, and I are here to answer them. So as we move out today, have a wonderful day and stay dry and warm. And again, thank you, Celina. So, bye, folks.
Take care, everybody. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Well.